Now, finally, Tony Fauci has said on the radio earlier that inevitably in the early stages of a rollout there will be hiccups until it ramps up to scale. He's talking about the Australian experience, incidentally. Do you think some of the criticism has been unfair?
Look, I think we've got 1.7 million Australians who've been vaccinated. There have been really two challenges. One, there was 3 million or 3.1 million doses that was otherwise due to arrive in Australia from Europe, which we've not been able to access. We'll continue to fight for those, particularly for PNG. But two, the big change, which is a global change, and not just with AstraZeneca, but you've also seen the J&J vaccine in the US paused. Some were arguing last week we had to have J&J. The next day, it was paused. The big change is that there's been medical advice that Pfizer will now be the preferred vaccine for the under 50s, and AstraZeneca for the over 50s as being safe and effective. And when we have that medical advice, we have to adapt. That has had an impact on the program design, no question. But every day there are challenges, and every day through the pandemic we've adapted. So we just continue to deal with a global situation where there's 700,000 cases a day overseas and none here. 1.7 million by the end of today, vaccinations that will have been completed, and a vaccination program that, since we brought on the GPs, has increased sixfold in 4 weeks. So you're always improving, you're always updating, and that's how we've kept Australia safe. The point was made during our press conference earlier. What did I think of the fact that there would now be no limits on the number of people who could go into football subject to the capacity of the ground? The idea that on Anzac Day or on Anzac Eve for the Melbourne versus the Mighty Tigers match, there could be 100,000 people or as many as they can accommodate. What a symbol of Australia's success. And when we put all of this into perspective, Australia has achieved at a national level an outcome virtually very few other countries, very few others have achieved or could aspire to, and we remain the envy of the world. And with a rollout that is accelerating with 330,000 people last week, and then if we bring forward the over 50s, subject to National Cabinet, then we'll continue to vaccinate the most vulnerable Australians at the earliest possible times and to protect their lives. That's a pretty good outcome for a pretty good country.
Yeah, well, we keep our fingers crossed that everything stays on track. Minister, as always, I very much appreciate your time. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Kieran.